Everybody's heard about the bird, 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 bird. The bird's a word, oh well a bird, bird, bird. Bird is a word, oh well a bird, 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 oh well a bird is a word, oh well a bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh well a bird, 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 oh well a bird is a word, oh well a bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh well a bird, 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 oh well a bird is a word, oh well a bird, 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 oh well a bird is a word, oh well a bird, bird, bird. Bird is a word, wow, don't you?
So today we're going to do our presentation on rational emotive behavior therapy, which was developed by Albert Ellis. It is a therapy that uses principles of cognitive behavior in changing our current problem behaviors. Albert really believed in changing things now, and changing attitudes and perceptions now to affect behaviors positively for the future. He really wasn't interested in talking a lot about the past and issues that had sprung up from that, or focusing a lot on early childhood. The three goals of our EBT are unconditional acceptance of self, unconditional acceptance of others, and unconditional acceptance of our lives. So today we're going to go over a session where a lady comes in to meet with a social worker. She is having issues with a sister. They are having some family things going on, so all of the family has been getting together more often, and the sisters are just not getting along. So let's start. So our first activity will be initial greetings and a short assessment, where the social worker gets to know the client and understand exactly what's going on with the situation in order to form a plan moving forward.
Okay, hi, come on and have a seat. My name is Suzanne.
My name's Fiona.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for seeing me.
Yeah, no problem. So tell me what brought you in today.
Well, the main thing is that I'm really having trouble with my sister. We don't live in the same state, but our father's really sick, so we all are back in the same house again, which brings back a lot of past memories and issues, and we never really got along too well to start with, and now that Dad's sick and it's causing so much stress on our family, we're just at each other's throats all the time.
Okay, that sounds like it's really hard.
Yeah, it's really stressful.
Yeah, when was your dad diagnosed?
About 3 weeks ago.
That's really recent.
Yeah, it's super recent.
Yeah, how are you taking it?
It's still all kind of new right now.
Yeah.
Still kind of in the shocked phase, but we're hoping it'll get better.
Yeah, that's hard. It's a lot of stress on a family,
Yeah.
for sure. So tell me more about your sister and the issues that you guys have.
Well, I guess it just, honestly, it feels like anytime we're in the same room, we can't get along because we're polar opposites. She says one thing and I freak out on her, or I do something, I don't even say anything, and she freaks out on me, and it's always horrible.
So what does that look like more specifically? Is there yelling or?
Well, I would think so. I guess it depends on the situation, but it can be total passive-aggressive too. But a lot of the time it is verbally yelling.
So most often it's like a loud fight?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds, and how does that make you feel? Like, what are your feelings when you guys are fighting?
Well, it makes me really sad at the end of it, because I'm like, why are we fighting? We're in a really hard situation already, and we're making it worse, and it puts stress on my mom, and we have a brother, and he hates it, and it just causes even more commotion.
Yeah, and that's adding a lot more stress to the rest of the family, for
Yeah.
sure. So is there something very specific that you guys fight about often? Is there like a specific fight you have?
Not really. I think it's just because we can't agree on anything, because we view things completely differently.
Okay, so you mentioned that you and your sister haven't always gotten along. You've always had an issue with that. Tell me about that.
Well, I think just in the past it really stemmed from just being so different. We did different activities all when we were growing up, and now it's just, so that never really brought us together.
Right.
And now that we're apart in different states and different locations and have our own lives, it just, we have really had nothing to grow from, I guess, that really brought us together ever.
Right. So what did your fights used to look like?
Honestly, when they were in the past, they seemed more stupid, just teenager drama, over simple stuff from what we want to watch on TV to hanging out with her friends, or, stuff like that. So it's definitely changed.
Yeah. Okay, so how, like, can you describe how it changed? Has it gotten worse or just just
I think it's got
fight
more,
differently?
more verbal. So like even right before I came here, she just took my car without asking me, and I had to take a taxi. And like the thing is, she had to go to the hospital, and it was like super fast. But even just like to shoot me a text, like, hey, I need your car, a heads up. So sorry I'm late, by the way.
That's okay.
She took my car, but yeah. So it's just stuff like that, and then I guarantee when I go home after this, it's going to be this huge blow up because we're both really frustrated at each other.
So it sounds like there's a lot of miscommunication as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that would help. So why did you decide now? If this has been an ongoing problem for a lot of your life, what made you decide now to come get some help?
I think mostly just because I feel like it's affecting the rest of our family now, and since it is such a stressful time, it's making everything more hectic at home.
That makes sense. So it sounds like you have a lot on your plate right now, and I'm glad you came to get some help. I just want to know, like, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to get out of this therapy?
Honestly, I'd like to just calm things down with her, so every time we have a discussion, it doesn't end in a raging fight.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now that Suzanne and Fiona have met each other, kind of assessed the problem, and agreed on a goal for what this session is all about, we'll move into the second portion of our video, which is psychoeducation about the ABC model of REBT. Albert Ellis believed that in all of our interactions we had an activating event, and that led to consequences. In between those two things, we had our irrational beliefs. And so Ellis believed that most of us were able to rationally say, what we thought was happening, but we were unwilling to go into what the irrational belief was, which is truly the driving force behind our negative consequences. So we'll watch as Suzanne explains all of this to Fiona, and we'll go into a tangible scenario so that she can understand more clearly.
Okay, Fiona, I'm going to go ahead and teach you a little bit about the therapy model that we're using today. It's called REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot. I'm going to explain it to you, though, don't worry. So the belief behind Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy is that our perception of events lead to our actions and our emotions and behaviors. So I have this diagram for you. So we'll have an activating event, something that happens that kind of triggers you. And then most people think that we kind of think of our emotions and behaviors as like this behavior resulting from the event, where this therapy model talks about the perception. So the way you view what happened is going to affect your emotion and how you feel about it.
Okay.
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Say that you have a boyfriend and you see your boyfriend talking to another girl. Just a friendly conversation, but you see that happening and this is a trigger for you. And so this is the event, is your boyfriend talking to somebody else. And then your perception of it is, he probably thinks that she's prettier than I am and he probably doesn't love me anymore. And then, so your emotion or behavior is going to be to feel jealous or to be mad or to get angry, and you get in a fight over that.
Okay.
So another way of looking at that is we want to change our perception of the event, is the whole point of this therapy. So another way of looking at that is, say you see your boyfriend talking to another woman, and instead of thinking, oh, he must not love me anymore and he thinks that she's prettier than I am, instead you perceive that as, oh, he's having a conversation with another woman, I wonder what they're talking about, friendly conversation. And then instead of being jealous and angry, you think, oh, that's good, I'm glad he's having other relationships and he can talk well with other people and has good social skills. So then you guys don't get in an argument and you feel okay about it. Does that kind of make sense?
I think so.
Okay. I think it'll help you get a more concrete idea if we use an example from you and your sister.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about the most recent argument you guys had?
Well, I guess just last night, we have this deal in our family that we just take turns, whoever is up next to make dinner.
Okay.
And last night was my night, and I got held up at the hospital. I was just there way longer than I thought to. They were doing different tests and everything, and I thought, well, I'll just pick something up and bring it home and save that whole time of cooking, and then we can just all sit down together and eat. And my sister was not happy about that. I think she was expecting, she's like, well, I did my meal, and it was your night, you should have did that. I could have went to the hospital and covered for you, and it just ended up, of course, being a problem and this huge fight over bringing home KFC.
Right. Okay. So what happened? Did you got in a fight? How did you feel after this fight?
Well, I felt like I let my family down over something so dumb, like just over food, because well, not everybody, but my sister more or less just acted like it was this huge deal.
Right.
And I feel like it wasn't, and then I just kind of took myself out of it and just went and hung up by myself the rest of the night.
Okay. Okay, good. We can use that example. So I'm just going to ask you, see if you can kind of get a concrete idea about this, and if you get stuck, I'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think was the activating event in this instance?
Would that be when we were fighting about it?
Yeah, so it would be when your sister got upset, when
Okay.
she starts yelling at you or attacking you and saying that you didn't hold up your end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So then your perception of the event, what do you think?
That I let my family down, or
Mhm.
that I wasn't good enough, I guess, that something so small was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. So you perceived that she was angry with you,
Yeah.
and that you maybe had failed in
Yeah.
your holding up your end of the deal with your siblings.
Mhm.
Good, yeah. So then your emotion or behavior then was what?
I guess just like sad, more or less. I don't know. I just
Maybe
didn't
a
feel
little-
good about it.
Yeah, maybe a little disappointed and,
Yeah.
and felt bad,
Mhm.
right? So the goal then is to take a situation like that and to change the way that you're viewing that to be a little bit more rational. So we have all these irrational beliefs that everybody has them, and a lot of times we don't want to admit that we have them. So the irrational belief is that, maybe you failed or that you let your family down, whereas realistically, it probably wasn't a big deal. You still provided dinner for the family, everyone still ate. Just because it wasn't a home-cooked meal doesn't mean that you failed to hold up your end of the deal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe what's another way you could have perceived her getting upset about it?
I maybe could have taken into consideration that how stressed she was,
Mhm.
and probably just really emotional at the time, and maybe if I would have talked to her more and explained why I was late and all that stuff.
Right. So your perception could have been, she's not actually mad at me about dinner.
Okay.
She's more stressed about the situation with our dad and whatever happened that day, and she just happens to be taking it out on what I did for dinner.
Okay.
And then that would change your emotion and behaviors to be something completely different and more constructive probably. And you would have been able to hang out with your family that evening and spend time and not, be sad and locked up in your room.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good.
So now that Suzanne has explained REBT a little more clearly to Fiona, we're going to go into some techniques to help Fiona identify irrational beliefs, activating, triggering events, and consequences. So in this next segment, we'll watch as Suzanne uses inference chaining to help Fiona identify an irrational belief about why her and her sister cannot get along. Take note that inference chaining is a technique used to continue to challenge the client to work beyond what their rational explanation of their feelings and beliefs are, to dig down deeper to find the true root, the irrational belief that is leading to the end consequence.
Okay, so Fiona, like I mentioned before, in REBT we talk a lot about this middle ground between an activating event, or a trigger, sometimes we call it, and then the emotion or the behavior that we react with. So most people just think like, oh, this person or this event made me feel this way or made me act this way. And with REBT, we like to get to the root of the problem, that these irrational beliefs are what actually cause you to perceive the event that way and then react the way you do. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to try maybe getting to the root of an irrational belief for you.
Okay.
So let's talk about, tell me what causes the outbursts or the fights with your sisters?
Honestly, it's anytime we're in the same room, it's that bad, something happens.
Okay. So what happens when you're in the same room?
We just fight, and a fight blows out every time.
Okay. So tell me about the fights. What happens?
Usually screaming, and someone ends up storming away.
Mm-hmm. So when you get into fights, what are you thinking?
I think that all she's doing is criticizing me and making me feel bad about myself.
Okay. So what about feeling bad about yourself? What about that?
Well, she's a lawyer, so she's really good at coming up with things and making me turn my own thoughts and manipulate me into thinking that I did something wrong when I really don't think I did.
Okay, and then what do you think?
That I'm stupid, and I end up believing that, well, maybe I did start this all on myself. Maybe I am dumb.
Okay. And what would happen if you were dumb or stupid?
My family would probably hate me. I don't think they would. If they believed I was dumb, I'd probably be rejected from the family.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you think you'd be rejected from the family?
Well, I think all families, there shouldn't really be conflict. Families should love and support each other, so I think that's what would happen.
Okay. So it sounds like we sort of got to one of your root beliefs that families shouldn't have conflict. And that is an irrational belief because families do have conflict, and families just have to find healthy ways of dealing with conflict, because you're never going to get a group of people that get along perfectly with each other. There's always differences of beliefs and difference of opinion, and there's arguments and there's disagreements, but a healthy family can deal with it and have healthy ways of dealing with the conflict.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So where you think that if your sister convinces everyone that you're stupid and your family is going to reject you, where we need to work on is changing that belief from families need to be perfect and sisters always have to get along or we can't ever fight, to saying, okay, it's okay if we disagree, we just need to come up with ways to work through it without just yelling at each other and getting in a fight and storming off.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So now that Suzanne and Fiona have gone through some inference training to identify some irrational beliefs behind some of the behaviors and emotions that Fiona's been feeling, Suzanne will use the technique of going over dichotomous thinking with Fiona to explain that sometimes we get stuck in this world of seeing everything either all black or all white, all good or all bad. And the reality of life is that everything is somewhere in between. And so Suzanne will try to help Fiona identify that her sister is not all evil, but that we all have parts of both sides in between, and that we all need to work on unconditional acceptance of those things in order to move forward and challenge those beliefs and come up with new, more effective beliefs to have better outcomes for our emotions and behaviors.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from that last activity was that you think that your sister hates you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think that that's a rational way of thinking?
I don't know. I guess kind of.
Yeah.
I just really think she doesn't like me.
Yeah, well, if that's what you think. So part of our EBT, one of the principles of it is dichotomous thinking. This idea of dichotomous thinking where we think in extremes where, maybe you have a conflict with your sister and you just assume that she hates you instead of, there are some complicated feelings and tension here that we can work through. But a lot of people tend to think in extremes of they love me or they hate me, or I'm a good person or I'm a bad person, or even with the example of your family, kicking you out because your family's supposed to be perfect. So you have these perfect families who never have conflict and then families who never get along. Where in reality, everything in the world is all in between there somewhere. Everybody has combinations of good qualities and bad qualities. One day somebody might think that they hate you, but they don't really. Your sister, I'm sure, doesn't really hate you. We just, maybe you guys have a hard time showing each other how much you care about each other.
Right.
Okay, so what I want to do is take some of these examples that you've given me, these scenarios, and sort of challenge the beliefs that we've talked about.
Okay.
So the most recent one, you talked about your sister hating you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that because she disagrees with you, she hates you? Put yourself in her position. If you had a disagreement with somebody, because you're not going to agree with everyone in life, as
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, do you hate them?
No, I think ultimately I do. I care about her.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you get in an argument with her, do you think, man, I hate her?
No.
Right. You get frustrated.
Yeah.
So hate is a really extreme way of thinking
Mhm.
that she hates you. She may be frustrated with you or mad at you, but hate is a lot more extreme. than
Yeah,
this.
that's true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's talk about the incident with KFC, when you brought
Mhm.
KFC home.
Yeah.
Imagine if your brother had, been at the hospital and gotten held up doing something for
Mhm.
your dad or for the paperwork or whatever, and if he'd brought home fast food or KFC, would you have been mad and thought that he didn't hold up his end of the deal?
No, I think I would understand that. I mean, he was at the hospital, and
Right.
we all take shifts there, and I've been in that situation, so.
Right. So you wouldn't think that he'd failed the family in
No.
any way. Right. So
No.
do you see how maybe that's an
Yeah.
irrational belief that
Yeah,
you
I
have
can see
about
that.
that? Okay. Then the last one that we talked about was you thinking that your irrational belief about your families not having any conflict.
Yeah.
Do you think about other families that you know and your friends' families? Do you think that they don't have any conflict ever?
No, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. So that's really extreme of thinking that, oh, everyone else's family is perfect, and if they're not perfect, they're terrible and they don't get along. We've all got a little bit of, disagreements, and we're all a little bit somewhere in the middle. So a lot of this REBT therapy is just finding the middle ground so that you're not stuck in these extreme irrational beliefs.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay. It'll take some practice.
Yeah.
But I think that you'll catch on to it pretty
Okay.
easily. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the session. Suzanne and Fiona have really gone over the meat of REBT and kind of gone through some of the steps in helping Fiona identify irrational beliefs. So we're heading into the closing of this session. An important part of REBT is regular homework assignments. Clients are expected to apply what they're learning in therapy to their personal lives at home. So Suzanne will assign Fiona an assignment. She'll talk it over with her, and then they will work on going over it the following session.
Okay, so Fiona, tell me how you're feeling right now.
I'm feeling okay. Kind of a lot of information at once, but I think I can handle it.
Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about what we've talked about today, or anything that you need to clarify that you thought I didn't explain well enough, or?
No, I think I kind of have it all in order in my head.
Okay, that's good. And like I said, it'll just take some practice. Do you feel like this is something that's useful to you, that's going to be helpful?
Yeah, I think I'm willing to try it and keep meeting with you and working on it.
Good. I'm glad you're willing to try it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll find something else that works for you better. So no pressure.
Okay.
A little pressure now, though, because I'm going to give you some homework. Assignment. So in the next week, we're meeting next week.
Okay.
That we can schedule. I'm going to give you a homework assignment that I want you to journal and write down any triggers that you can recognize and any of the perceptions that you think you have. Kind of like this whole step-by-step process that I explained to you about the triggers and the perceptions and the behaviors that you might have, and kind of keep track of whatever you can, and see if you can get to the root of the irrational belief. If you can't, that's okay. We'll go over it when you come back.
Okay.
But I want you to keep track of the times that you guys fight and what you fought over and sort of your feelings, and see if you can kind of get into this model.
Okay.
Does that sound like something?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. So here's an outline of kind of what we talked about today in case you need reminders
Okay.
on the ABC model or irrational beliefs. And then if you need access to a journal or anything like that, we have extra journals I can give you.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll take one.
Okay, well, I'll grab you one on the way out. So do I need to call you a taxi or anything?
Yeah, I probably should get a
Okay,
cab
we
since
can-
my sister took my
Okay.
car.
Okay, we can do that then. It was nice to meet you. I'm really glad you came in.
Thank you, yes.
So let me walk you out. I'll
Awesome.
call you a taxi, and then I'll see you next week.
Yay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so it's been a week. Fiona will be coming back in to meet with Suzanne. So with subsequent REBT sessions, the practice is always to have the client bring in their homework and to go over homework before going into any new topics. We're really trying to help clients learn these skills, practice them, and give any time for feedback and a time to ask questions. So now we'll watch as Suzanne helps Fiona go over her homework.
How are you, Fiona? Did you have a good week?
I did, thank you.
Good, it's good to see you. So we'll just jump right in. We'll just review what we talked about last week. We went
Okay.
over, I taught you the model, the ABC model,
Yep.
right? And talked about irrational beliefs.
Yes.
And we talked about dichotomous thinking, was really extreme beliefs
Mhm.
about things. And I gave you a homework assignment.
Yeah.
So tell me about how that went.
It was okay. I found it to be more difficult than I thought it would be. Just being able to think on the spot, I guess, and I guess I never really thought about it before, so this is the first time I've ever had to do this.
Right.
Do you want me to tell you about what I journaled?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
But I just want to let you know that it's okay you didn't get it right
on.
right away, because
Okay.
it takes some practice, and it's okay if you think back and reflect on it too, rather than trying to figure it out in the moment. Especially when
Yeah.
you're learning, it's okay to take a step back, and once the fight's over or whatever it is, that you reflect on it and then
Okay.
try to kind of analyze what happened and write
Maybe
it out.
that was the problem. I tried to do it right in the moment. And
Yeah, and
I couldn't even think straight.
Right, and ideally you would be able to kind of catch yourself right in the moment, but when you're first starting, it's okay. Like the practice is like reflecting and figuring out, kind of using them as examples to kind of figure out and learn to model. So that's okay. That was a little bit hard for you. So yeah, why don't you tell me about what you journaled?
Okay, so I went shopping, and usually I don't shop that much, but I got a shirt, and it wasn't that expensive to be honest, but my sister freaked out because we're helping with the medical bills, and I know how expensive they are and all that, but I really didn't think that one item was going to put that big of a dent in how much we're paying. So she just, we went off on each other. It was really bad.
Okay. So tell me about how it made you feel.
Well, I felt like I was letting down the family because I wanted one thing for myself.
Right. Okay. Letting down the family, tell me a little bit more about that.
What do you mean?
Like, how did, I guess, trying to get back to those irrational beliefs.
Okay.
So what do you think letting down the family means to you? What is
Oh, okay. I think if I let them down, that they would, kind of like before, just like shun me and be totally disappointed and potentially just totally kick me out of the family.
Yeah. And how would that make you feel?
Totally isolated and upset.
Okay.
I would hate it.
Okay. So that's good. That's good that you recognize that. Let's talk about maybe a different way to view that. What's another way you could think about you buying a shirt? Instead of you thinking like, I let the family down.
Yeah.
How could you change that belief to be something more positive or less negative?
I could think that it's one small thing for myself and it's okay.
Yeah, I totally think so. You're facing a really stressful situation right now, and taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of your family. So I think the fact that you bought yourself a new shirt is totally fine. If that's something you needed to kind of pick you up a little bit and take care of yourself, then
okay.
I think that's fine. So I think that you have to work on practicing seeing that as a self-care, and it's okay. And maybe my sister's mad because she's stressed out about it, but it's really okay that I bought myself a shirt.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that was basically an initial session with REBT therapy. You got to see, as Suzanne explained, the ABC model and then some of the techniques that REBT uses in helping clients to work through the ABC model and identifying those irrational beliefs and trying to identify new beliefs to positively affect our behavior and emotions. Hope that helps.